See this woman? Imagine that she's been suffering from some kind of serious ailment. But since she cannot afford health care, she is unable to be treated, let alone diagnosed. This happens much more than you would know every day in this country. There is a serious situation in this country that needs to be addressed. The healthcare system in this country is damaged at best. It needs some help. And I'd like to take a look today at this issue that we Americans are dealing with on a daily basis. Today we're going to go ahead and take a brief look at the affordability problem with the current healthcare system in the United States. The fact that we as a nation are lacking when it comes to taking care of our people is one big issue, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at how socialized medicine may be a possible solution and how that might look and what can be done to make it happen. This situation affects each and every one of us in some way or another. Even if you're not dealing with paying for health care now, you're certainly going to be at some point in your life, and this makes it relevant to you. As an American citizen that doesn't make a whole lot of money and has some minor health issues, this affects me very much, so I'm very interested in this topic. The healthcare system in the United States is in serious need of an overhaul. Many people are not receiving the medical attention that they need in this country, and many people are dying because of it. The United States relies on private insurance companies in order to keep our people healthy. As Timothy Stoltzfus Jost talks about in the article, Why Can't We Do What They Do? Other countries like Germany believe that members of their society have an obligation to each other. And the concept that I'm speaking of is what they call solidarity. And they believe this rather than believing that individuals are responsible for themselves, as a lot of people do think in the United States. Now that I've stated the problem, I will go ahead and dig a little deeper into the subject. The main issue that I'm speaking of here is that the United States lacks affordable health care. This is a fact for many Americans. According to the article that I just mentioned, 1 in 6 elderly Americans have no health insurance. Studies show that the lack of health insurance has a dramatic effect on the access to care as well as people's health status. So the big question is, what does a country that has the most expensive healthcare system in the world, still have over 43 million people uninsured? Now let's go ahead and take a look at an alternative method of care for our citizens. What can be done to remedy this terrible situation? My proposal is that the U.S. take on some form of socialized or government-run medical care to replace our current failing system. According to Columbia Electronic Encyclopedia, 6th edition, the definition of socialized medicine is a publicly administered system of national health care. Care is generally free or of very little cost to individuals. Now, there are several different kinds of socialized or government-run medical plans. They range from free care that's taken out of taxes to different types of nonprofit insurances. Many other countries have adopted this form or type of health care to ensure that their citizens are taken care of when they need it. Countries that have administered some form of this type of plan include Canada, Great Britain, Germany, Sweden, among many other countries. I wanted to go ahead and take this time to give you some very valid reasons for adopting a new plan. Those who are in serious need of health care but cannot afford it would have no worries when it comes to money, because there would be little, if anything at all, to pay. Now, according to an article I read called Socialized Medicine, Good, Bad, and Even Deadly, Dr. Jeffrey B. English tells of a friend of his from Great Britain that had a home visit from a doctor, because, with a lot of these plans, there are home visits. And this person was diagnosed with appendicitis. They later received some life-saving surgery and were never billed a cent for it. This is just one example under one type of plan that actually shows the good that can come from this type of reform. Now let's go ahead and take a look at hierarchy and fairness when it comes to a new plan. Everyone from rich to poor would receive fair and equal medical treatment on an as-need basis. There would be no concerns of access to health care or health care status, because everyone would have the same care unless they chose to have additional insurances, which in most cases only covers elective things like cosmetic surgeries, Botox, breast reductions, etc. And the last reason that I wanted to highlight, and it's a very important reason, is that doctors would be trusted a whole lot more if there's no financial benefit to them regarding procedures that they recommend. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've heard my friends and neighbors talk of how the medical industry at this point in time is a big, huge money racket. And under the current system, I see people are not trusting medical professionals because they feel that needless tests are being ordered, and they think that this puts money into physicians' pockets that wouldn't otherwise be there. Now, hearing all that I have had to say about these issues, I'm sure that you're interested in knowing where to go with this information. What can you do to help get yourself some good and fair health care? Each of us should start a campaign, a letter writing campaign to our representatives, asking them to support health care reform. And we should also support those representatives or people in government that represent changes to the current situation. I am sure that I've given you a lot to think about here today, and I want to take a minute to review what we have looked at. I showed you the problem that we're facing with the healthcare system. I showed you why we need it to change. I talked about a solution in the form of socialized medicine, and I showed you how we could benefit, and I told you what you could do to help the cause. I hope that your takeaway today is the knowledge that there is a healthcare crisis right here in your backyard, and that changes by the way of healthcare reform need to be made. Now is the time for you to go ahead and take a stand and be an advocate for better healthcare options. And if you don't consider this for yourself, at least consider it for future generations of America.